Live from Southern California.
Live. Let's go.
Welcome to 2021.
Yes. 2021.
Can you believe it?
We thought we would never survive. And here we are.
Yeah. We need to make some t-shirts that say Soul Tapes Podcast, I Survived 2020.
2021, yes. So then when we have kids, we can show it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Crazy year, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, man. But I'm excited for the new.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's to come.
What is coming?
This is we can look at it as however we want, fresh slate, new beginnings, whatever, or just a continuation of the things we've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that, let's be honest, not a lot of things are changing. Still the same.
Yep.
We're still in this process, trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
How's that gonna look like? And I mean, the reality is that we can't change our outside, but we can change the material that we have inside.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we should focus this year.
Totally.
We notice and we know that the plans that we had for 2020 didn't work. Many things that we thought we were gonna achieve.
Yeah.
So we have learned a lesson.
Yeah, totally.
And I think we don't have power over those things, but we do have power over what we're creating inside of us.
Yeah.
And
totally.
the world that we getting rid of the unhealthiness, maybe.
Yeah.
And growing and the fruits of our faith, the fruits of the spirit.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, man.
I love it, man. I love it. And starting off this year, we kind of thought it would be good to have an episode where we talked about a little bit of a reflection of the Christmas season.
Yeah.
There's a lot that kind of goes into that. The story of Jesus and specifically, the Advent, season.
Yeah.
So, I know you're reading a book, and I thought that would be cool if we kind of digest that a little bit and kind of reflect on what that looks like for us in 2021.
Yeah, I know that today's conversation can be, we want to tackle the conversation of the disruption of a lot of dreams, right?
Totally.
And how does that look like for 2021?
Yeah.
I've been reading this book. I finished reading this book called The Honest Advent. I'm going to show it to you guys.
The Honest Advent by who?
Scott Erickson.
All right.
I found out about this book because Pastor Noemi sent me a message of quote on Instagram of this dude.
Yeah.
And when I read it, I was just amazed of the way he encapsulated his thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I started looking into I went to his Instagram page, and I love the art, and that captured my heart more. I was like, okay, I want to dig in more into it.
Yeah.
So then I found out that it was a book. So I pre-ordered the book.
Yeah.
And it's called Awakening the Wonder of God with Us Then, Here, and Now. So I think that it was a very good book. I really liked it. I finished it like in 2 weeks.
That's good.
I devoured this book. This is not normal. Usually I take longer. For the ones who think that I'm a reader, no. I just felt like I really got into the rhythm of what he was talking about.
Yeah.
The way he was displacing his thoughts. And one of the things that he talked about, I love this because there's a lot into it. There's this sentence. He says, there was a moment where the presence of God was felt as the unease of morning sickness. Don't be surprised if your current unease is that exact same avenue of presence.
Yeah.
The announcement that you were going to, the announcement that you are going to grow. The process of growing is always unease because growth never comes through easy. It comes through the stretching and expanding of one's own capacity to push on ahead.
All right.
Yeah. And I think that's the conversation today.
Yeah.
How does that look like?
Yeah.
I think many times we feel like growing in a new promise, a new dream, a new project, comes easy. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that I feel like that many times is a misconception.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man. And, I think for a lot of people, 2020, this year that we just went through, is a lot of people are going to go through that process of maybe not even realizing it's a growth process, but it's also a disruption, like you're saying, into the plans that they thought they were going to be going through.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cool way to start this year off, to kind of open that up, because I think a lot of times when we go through those seasons as human beings, it's painful.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, because you're talking about letting go of something that you cherish.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I think they don't even share the dreams that they have with their friends and family. So when you're talking about going through a process where you're now experiencing having to let go, that can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I love the comparison that he makes. He makes the comparison of Jesus being birthed, right?
Yeah.
And a woman being pregnant. The woman being pregnant, all of a sudden her skin starts stretching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of a sudden she started getting nauseous and sick, but also she started craving something different. She started craving her taste, her smell is different. Also, it leaves stretch marks. It leaves some sort of sometimes I don't know, like, it's not scratches, wounds, right? Wounds. I was looking for that word. Some wounds, as in your body's no longer the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we are with a new dream, a new desire, a new plan is downloaded inside of us many times, when we are actually working on it, I feel like that's the same description that happens with us.
Yeah.
Even if we put it to action, we're no longer the same. It changes us. It leaves some wounds sometimes, right? You're expanded. It's different.
Yeah. Totally.
I think that's what it looks like for us. Right.
Yeah, and I love that image of when we think about in the Bible talking about the story of Mary, and it's a perfect correlation to when God kind of births a dream within us. A lot of times those moments happen, and it's like, I like what you said as far as creating a new taste, a new craving, and I think that's something that when we're experiencing that firsthand is something that we have to process. Yeah. Is something that we have to acknowledge. Okay, this is new. I never saw myself going this route. I never dreamed that my life would look this way. But what's beautiful about the story of Mary and what we can, connect to our own lives is that what's great is that she accepted and was obedient to this dream that was now being birthed within her of entering into a new path. And I think that a lot of times we find ourselves battling and wrestling with maybe what we desire versus what God is asking of us. And because of the fact that it's something that we feel like is not connected to something that we were holding on to, that becomes a battle within us. But I think, well, the beautiful thing about reading her story is that we see how God was with her through it all, and that was ultimately putting her in a position to where her life now had so much meaning and value that was bigger than just for herself, but it impacted the world. Yeah. Right? And I think that's something that we can experience in our own lives, where I think that God's ultimate desire for our life is that our life would have meaning and impact beyond just blessing ourselves. And I think a lot of times that's the struggle, is that many people are okay with living a life that is really just to benefit their self and their family. But God was inviting Mary to be a part of the story of humanity.
Yeah. And I feel that many times, I remember hearing the statement, you know, there were for many decades, the church has described that when you are in the will of God and his desire, that's the safest place you can be.
Yeah.
But I think that's not true. I think that's a dangerous place that you can be. And you
Hey,
know that, right?
I like that. Yeah.
Because the reality is that he's going to come and disrupt what you want and what you think is your future looks like.
Yeah.
And if we're willing to place ourselves in that space where we are okay with him disrupting our plans, then we're going to be okay. Because what he's not saying is like, he's not saying I'm gonna disrupt your plans and I'm gonna walk away. What he's saying is I'm gonna disrupt your plans and I'm gonna be present through the process.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened with Mary. And the thing is that we're so, I don't want to say narcissistic, but sometimes we are. But we want our way, right? Yeah. And more when we live in this Western society, when everything appeals to us, everything is for us, everything is made for us, everything is crafted for us, you know. And so the moment something doesn't go our way, you know, we disregard it because it's not made for us. Yeah. And we miss the opportunity of participating in something bigger than ourselves. And I think that when it comes down to the will of God, to the desire of God for us, you know, he always is going to come. And I feel like he's always, I mean, that's my experience at least, you know, everything that I thought I was going to do, he disrupted. But then the outcome is so much better than I thought. I get to participate in things that I never thought I was going to participate. I give you a clear example. And I think I gave this example before. Having a conversation with Pastor Josh a long time ago, I thought that my task and my purpose was in the circle or the sphere of the Spanish-speaking community, right? Yeah. Because that was my first language. Yeah. And I remember Pastor Josh telling me, he was like, hey, man, like, don't limit yourself to that. And I was like, huh. I for a moment, I felt offended, I said, I guess, because I was like, but that's what I feel like. That's my purpose. You know, I want to influence this community. I want to help. I want to bring up this community, so on. And I remember that years later, you know, I found myself being part of a multicultural, diverse community, leading a diverse community, trying to bring people closer and elevate people. Years later, you know, and I never thought that. And even if you go back all the way to when I graduated school, the last person who probably you would put in the board that will lead a multicultural community will be me. Yeah. Because I didn't even spoke English. So at the end of the day, I'm still trying to figure it out. But, you know, like, I feel like when you get, I can't take credit for that because the only thing that I did was saying yes to the unknown. Yes to being uncomfortable. Yes to let certain dreams die. Yes to let go of things and surrender things. And I think sometimes that idea and that concept sounds like a cuss word to many of us. You know? Like that is like that's offensive. And that's not. Because you don't know what is in the other side of you surrendering and being okay and trusting. Because that's what God is requiring from us.
And I think it's, you know,
sounds like you have a lot in your mind.
Yeah, I do. I just, it's just funny to me because this is why I love, like, you know, having conversations like these, because I feel like people, whether, you know, they believe in God or not, especially those that don't, you know, maybe aren't consider themselves like people of faith. I don't think they realize how much they sacrifice their own plans for things that are far less than what God might be, you know, wanting for them. And how willing they are to give it up for things that are cheaper than what they even, you know, really have access to. you know, to me, the best example of that is usually like, especially those that enter relationships with someone they have no business being in a relationship with. Oftentimes, you're willing to sacrifice your own plans, your own dreams, for the sake of trusting someone else who has no idea what they're doing with their lives either. And you're putting trust in this person, not because they have validated that you can trust whatever it is that their plans are, but you're putting trust in them for the sake of love, calling it love or calling connection, intimacy, all the things that as humans we desire. None of that is wrong. But I think this is where, to me, I always challenge people's ideas of trusting, you know, God, you know, whether they, you know, again, whether they have a theological like belief in him, is that, you know, when you play out, and this is what I always have done growing up, is like, if God is God, which is a perfect being who created, you know, heaven, earth, humanity, and in the Bible saying God is someone who has a plan and a purpose for our lives that is good and perfect. So my trusting in him, meaning that I may have to sacrifice my own plans and the ideas of what I thought my life would do, which, by the way, like I said, we do very often and easily for, you know, other humans who, you know, as we get older, realize don't have a clue, you know, more than what we might have. So the question, you know, what I'm getting to is like, so why do we claim that it's so much more difficult to put our trust in God? When we can do it for someone that, you know, is it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I guess my point is, like, I think more people should be more willing to give God a chance. And I think it's hard because if you don't have a spiritual relationship, that's where, to me, a lot of the key is, because then you're lost when it comes to listening to that voice. But we listen to voices within our own hearts and minds all the time that we have no idea where they're coming from. We think it's us. We think it's the universe, as some people like to, you know, say, which to me is, you know, you know, it is what it is. But it just doesn't have any merit, where I believe that there's it's a better bet to kind of put some trust in God.
I'm trying to process this right now.
Because
I don't want to go too hard. I want to be sensitive to people, but the reality is that many times when I feel like when we see people that we admire, we don't understand and we don't see the level of sacrifice that they had to the things they had to surrender, the things that they had to let go, and they make it look easy, but it's not that easy.
No.
Right?
No.
And when it comes down to God, I feel like many times we are as spectators of other people's lives, and we see like see some of these people surrender their lives, surrender their dreams, but I don't see them achieving anything. And I don't think we will understand how that works until we're willing to sacrifice and we're willing to surrender, you know, our will and our dreams. And we have to understand that he's not trying to sabotage our lives. You know, he's not trying to give us something that we don't want. He's trying to give us something that we really want. And it might look different. But if we really desire that, our desire, our hunger for that, he's going to be able to give us what we desire and what we want. But like you say, sometimes we sacrifice for something cheap, you know, for cheap relationships, for cheap projects, for cheap dreams. And we end up like getting what we want sometimes, but then we end up not being satisfied with what we have. And he's trying to satisfy that desire that we have. And I think that the only place where we can actually encounter that is when we're willing to say, okay, let me give it a try. Let me just surrender. Let me just give it up. And I'll say, try it. Why not?
And I think first off, that's why it's called faith, right? Because we are believing that God's will is going to be better than what, you know, or fulfill us in the way that we're desiring. And I think a lot of times we limit our experience as humans and in this world, because our dreams are predicated on physical things.
Yeah.
And assuming that my physical life that I'm dreaming and creating and believing for, having the perfect job, having the perfect, my dream car, having the dream house, having the dream family, all that stuff, our desires, we're limiting, oh, this is what's going to fulfill me, and this is what I'm striving for. So like you're saying, like, oh, we see these people who have decided to put their faith in God and say, oh, well, they're not achieving much, because all we see is the physical, exterior materialistic things, and say, well, what do they have that other people don't have? And a lot of times what they have that other people don't have is fulfillment, with peace and love and joy and happiness and these things in life that are worth more than money can buy. And I think that's where I think a lot of times people don't realize those are the things they're truly desiring. It's those, like I said, connections. It's the feeling like they're known and loved. And to me, it's like when you have that confidence that there's a God that knows and loves you, and then you have the greatest experience of that is that you can give that to other people.
Yeah. And let's just throw it out there. Don't just give God, don't go halfways.
Yeah.
But then, because then you start blaming him. See, I tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But you didn't really surrender. You didn't really give it up. You were holding both of them.
Yeah.
Hoping that if this doesn't work, I'm going to still have this one.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult part about this whole thing. Like, God desires to have your heart. And when your heart is divided, that's what he's trying to help you.
Yeah.
I remember one time at the beginning when we actually launched our community, our church with Gabby, there was another option that came in our plans. And this friend, it was a very influential church that was going to open a community in Mexico City. And we still admire them. We still love them. We still like, dude, they're doing amazing. Yeah. And I remember he told me 2 years before he even opened a community over there in Mexico City, he was like, hey, man, he kind of like say, if you want to come, let's go. Yeah. I mean, I was flattered that he even thought about that we have the DNA and the capacity to be part of a community with them. And we end up saying no. And at the beginning, question constantly, my mind was growing through it. Is this the right thing? Like, is this the right thing? Yeah. Because I knew they were going to blow up. I knew it. Yeah. I knew it from the beginning. I was like, they're going to go blow up because I know it's the right fit. Yeah. And I know they're going to expand like crazy. And it's exactly what happened. So because of that made me question that I took the right decision. And I remember being in a place before he even left, having a conversation with him, and I told him, hey, man, I just want to make sure that you know that I appreciate your offer, and I wouldn't like to close the door with you. If anything else happens in the future, I would love to keep that door open. And he told me this. He was like, hey, there's some opportunities that come only once in a lifetime. And I know for some people will say, man, he's a jerk. Or we say something like that. Yeah. But you know what I hear God saying? He's like, I don't want your heart to be split. Focus on one thing. That's good. Yeah. I want you to be your heart, your mind, your attention, your devotion, and one thing. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. And that's what I heard. I'm not gonna say I didn't keep struggling. Yeah. But I knew that was God telling me, hey, man. Yeah. Like you're gonna go for it, and that's what God desires from us. He wants our full attention. Yeah. He wants our full devotion to something. That's good. He wants our full commitment to something. And when we are split into two, we're not gonna give our heart. That's what he said. Yeah. the reality is that we are not gonna focus and not gonna give our full energy, and we're split into two.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure for us to say, like, you're the only one who knows if you're gonna give your all to God.
Yeah.
You can tell me you're giving your all to God and not really doing it.
Yeah.
But I will say, open your hand.
Yeah.
You know?
So, first of all, that story is like really awesome. But it's your life. It's reality,
Right. It's my
right?
yeah. It's my experience.
No. What I'm saying is, in that moment, because, not to speak for you, but
Yeah.
would you say that opportunity at the moment looked like God fulfilling dreams that you had for yourself?
Oh, yes.
So how did you come to a place of knowing that the answer had to be no in that moment?
That's a great question, because I never actually processed that.
But you said, because you're saying you as you're going through that process, I'm sure you guys prayed about it, talked about it. But at the end of saying, I'm going to leave what I'm doing right now to go to this opportunity that seemed like a dream come true.
Yeah.
What got you to that point of saying, is this my dream or God's dream for my life?
Yeah. I think, first of all, I don't want to say that I'm super spiritual, because I'm not. I'm working on it.
Yeah. It's a work in progress.
I'm still working on it. I'm trying to be better, to learn how to evaluate and discern those opportunities.
Yeah.
But there was a sense of, and I know this is not practical.
No, it's okay.
But there was a sense of, I knew that there was a stronger desire to say, I want to try this out.
Yeah.
I want to give it a shot to this. Might not be my perfect and ideal option.
Yeah.
But there's a sense like, I want to do this. Now, I know that this is going to be in contrast, because, but I feel like if I would have chosen the other one, God would have probably still blessed that part
totally.
too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you and I know that God is not like, oh, if you don't say yes to this,
wrong
I'm not
door.
gonna be there.
Yeah.
Right. But I do feel like the level of growth, the wisdom, the shape that took place in saying yes to this place, I wouldn't probably get it in the other one, and the ideal one, right?
Yeah.
Forgiving for myself.
Yeah.
So I think that it had to do with me synchronizing with God, and having this sense of that's one of those moments that it only happens if you're actually digging into your relationship with God.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's a scary part if you're not actually trying to do it, because if you're going by your feelings and not by your devotion and your intention with God and your consistency with God, then you might miss it.
Yeah. Totally.
And I feel like you understand that, because I know you're that type of person, but many times we go by our feelings and our sensation, like, well, I feel like is this or is that. And I feel like it's those moments that you just have a sense God is speaking to you, saying, hey, this is where I want you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think those moments are experiences that people go through more than they realize, whether they believe in God or not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, we believe like that, like we have access to like the Holy Spirit, like on this earth. Like, I think a lot of people can easily say like there is a devil on this earth, right? There is evil and things happen that don't make sense, that are wrong, right? So to me, I don't feel like it's bad or contradicting or should be weird for people to believe that there is a God like spirit, Holy Spirit on this earth that is with us.
Yeah.
So to me, like when you have those moments, I think a lot of people who maybe aren't connected or have a relationship with God would call that like gut instinct. They'll call that like, I have this gut feeling, like this, just as great as this opportunity seems, I just feel like it's not for me, Yeah. They wouldn't attribute it to God talking to them, but I would say like maybe God, and because even for me, I've experienced where I've felt like these gut feelings, and when I haven't listened to them, I've realized like, man, why didn't I? Like clearly something was prompting me to make a decision, and it wasn't just me, because I didn't have that kind of foresight to really see that, So I believe like that when you have those moments, and I think it's okay that you don't, maybe didn't have the language at the moment to really understand what was going on, because I think there are moments like that a lot where we go through that with God, where we have to make big decisions and figure out what direction we need to go in.
And let me just pause in that place, and I believe that God wants us to have those moments more often.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I think God wants to trust us with that more often.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
I think that those type of decisions shows where our heart is at.
Yeah.
So I think God is trying to place us in certain places where it requires for us to listen to God that way.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, if we don't have it more often, perhaps it's because we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
When we have to pay attention.
Yeah.
But I think that there's moments in life where I feel like it requires a lot of that.
Yeah.
It involves a lot of responsibility, I feel.
Yeah.
And you might question it. Look, did I still to this day I question the opportunity? Sometimes, but I feel like now there's more clarity.
Yeah.
I think when I was going through it, there was not a lot of clarity, and I was constantly like questioning, like, dang, like, I didn't want to be cocky about it. Like, oh, man, they consider us to be part of that. And what would have happened if I would have gone? But now I'm in this place where I'm like, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that was not for us.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was a very difficult thing to do it. And I think I had to keep going back to God. God, affirm this. God, please show me. God, just bring clarity, God.
Yeah.
And even when it's not going my way, I'm like, God, what's up? Like,
yeah, a lot of those moments for me, when I think about my life, the moments in life where you're kind of like questioning, or maybe not the most satisfied with where you're at, or desiring to like move forward and new things, experience new things. I've had jobs where I'm like, why am I here? What I mean? Or like, this is not like where I want to be. I have desires to move forward. But one of the things that has helped me looking back in those seasons, and moments in my life, is that I think about the people that I had the opportunity to be in relationship with. Yeah. And I'm talking about not people who were like lifelong friends, not people who I even like had a relationship outside of work with. But I believe that like when God has placed you somewhere specifically for a certain time, you have the ability to impact people around you. Mm-hmm. So I look back at some of the jobs I had, graduating college, and, being in positions where I'm like, even though it wasn't like a job I necessarily loved, it was still a position where I was blessed to be in. Yeah. And I just think about it now and think, man, like, I don't know why, I was in those jobs or why I was there, but I believe that God put me there to hopefully have a conversation, have an impact, develop a relationship where people would be able to, people who didn't know God, maybe the way I did, be able to see and hopefully one day believe that, man, like if, they got to meet me, maybe they saw something that was different than they've experienced in other people. Yeah. So, I believe a lot of times those detours sometimes in life, maybe it's not, going towards the direction that you're hoping for. I believe that God has a purpose in those moments.
Yeah. And I can identify with the analogy that the author of this book did. Yeah. Because in that time, like if I'm looking backwards, right? And I can see, how there's some stretch marks in my life.
Yeah.
There's some wounds that are there because of what happened. The cravings are different. They're no longer the same. Yeah. My taste and my smell is just different. Yeah. So I think that now I'm okay with the decision that I take because I know that God was through it. Yeah. And I know that He sustained me. And I know that He gave me the passion and the drive to sustain me. Now that I look back, I'm like, how did I actually survive that? But I can look back and say, man, like I know that He just infused in me the necessary strength, the knowledge, the wisdom to sustain the weight of that responsibility,
Yeah.
that my body is no longer the same.
Yeah.
My emotional body is not the same. My
Yeah.
spiritual body is not the same.
Yeah.
But I can say that what we appeal, the story of Christmas, going all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
The whole idea of Jesus coming to earth is Emmanuel, right?
Yeah.
God with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful statement that any religion can have,
Yeah.
because I believe that's what makes this relationship with Jesus different
Yeah.
from other religions.
Yeah.
That we can say that God walk with us,
Yeah.
and he become like us,
Yeah.
to show us the way, to say, not, he's not just telling us go that way, I want you to go, I want you to do this. He was like, nah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna walk with you. And I think that and this 2021, for me at least, this is my last thoughts, I think. Try to find the wonder and the beauty of God in the present, and the now. Allow him to speak to you, to whisper to you, and be willing to let go. If you're not willing to let go, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
The whole premise of Jesus is willing to sacrifice everything for what really matters and is important. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, that's beautiful, man. And I think, to me, it's like saying yes to God and choosing to trust him can still be a painful process.
It is.
It doesn't, saying yes to God doesn't alleviate or remove hurtful moments, painful experiences. I think, again, like I've said before, we only know joy because we experience pain. So we have to understand that God's desire for our life is not to numb us from experiencing what we're going to experience in this world. The beauty of God is that we can not walk through those experiences alone, because I think a lot of times when people decide to take drastic decisions and do things like take their own life or do things that hurt their family and friends, it's because their desire is to numb themselves from pain. But God's desire is that he would give us the strength to overcome. And I think that's what where I find hope and joy is in the story of Christmas, and the story of what we, like I said, what is an important story in time, that we can walk into this new year with that hope, with the strength that is something beyond what we can handle.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think as we close this, having hope that I love what you said, it doesn't alleviate the pain.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it makes us, he's trying to push us to the humanity, who we really are.
Yeah.
To all the feelings and emotions that we have numbed for many years.
Yeah.
He's trying to actually take us there and show us who we really are.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I my desire for 2021 is, that we can listen to God better.
Totally.
The pain and purpose are not opposite.
Yeah, it's good.
They actually come together.
Yeah.
And maybe silence, maybe the darkness of our own lives might want to tell us differently.
Mm-hmm.
But let's try to keep attention to what God is trying to say to us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you have come this far, we do love and appreciate you. And we're excited to continue just to share our, what God is doing in our lives and what we're learning, and, to experience something new. Yeah. So,
yeah, man, thank you so much. It has been quite a bit of months. We're trying this new project for us, and hopefully it's bringing life to your lives, bringing perspective, bringing wisdom, bless you, in so many ways. And if this has bless you, just share with friends, follow us, bring questions, bring any topics. We want to be able to touch about everything that we can, we're not intimidated by any conversation.
Totally. It's funny is I don't think we actually introed the podcast, but this is the Soul Tapes podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. We out.
Growing up without a father. Know you lived inside the house, but yet you never seemed to bother. All I wanted was a man that I could talk about life. Teach me about the world we live and how to do some things right.